This is the Retro Inc. podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back to Retro Inc. podcast with myself, Adam, and my co-hosts, Andy. How are you, sir?
Hello, mate. I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to the show. And Jeremy, how are you, mate?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
Very well indeed. First of all, we're going to start this week's podcast off with some comments and some interaction that we've had with our listeners and Facebook group. Andy, over to you.
Right, well, I didn't realise you were going in that quick. I didn't have it open. Hang on. Right, so this is again from Mark. I don't know. Did we read that one from Compal? I think we did actually. But anyway, yeah, we've got Mark. Hi, good chat again, lads. I've seen a lot of these. Altered Carbon, loved it. Mowgli, amazing. I think this is in response to the Avengers Endgame trailer reaction breakdown episode we did. It's Norseman. Both seasons are funny and worth a watch. Being a huge fan of Avatar, I enjoyed your Avatar chat. Adam and Jeremy also doing a duo cast was a good listen. Good listen. Do you like that? Not great. Good. Right. Now moving on to what's important, Avengers Endgame, and buzzing for this to come out. Brackets, a little bit of Winkle milk. I think that Cap A is brown bread by sacrificing himself for Stark to live on, whom will ultimately do something in the quantum realm to save all. What are your thoughts on the Game of Thrones teaser trailer? Right, so there's a double barrel question there. Well, two questions there. See, this is what I said. I said about them sacrificing themselves.
It's a possibility, isn't it?
For the greater good, and it's a good way for them to go out and a good way for them to go down as comrades, finally.
I've had to think about this. Because we saw Peggy in his little thing,
his compass.
I think Chris Evans is done, but I think they're going to do some kind of time stone reset, and he's going to go back to the time when he could get with Peggy, and he's going to go off in the sunset with Peggy.
That would be cheesy enough.
That would be what I said, I think, like in the last episode when I said I don't think anyone's going to die. I think they'll just go back to this sort of former life, perhaps. But I think what would be wonderful after Civil War would be the actual unification of Cap and Tony Stark. I think that would be a lovely end to their relationship, or a start of a new relationship, quite frankly. I think it would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And his other question was on
Game of Thrones trailer.
Well, it was a real tease, wasn't it? Because we didn't see very much at all, except a lot of ice and a lot of fire.
You've seen more than me.
Oh, you've missed that one as
well. I haven't bothered watching it, mate, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, it's just literally
fire and ice.
It's fire and ice, yeah. It's covering the entire map, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. A very stark, that's a good pun there, wasn't it? A very stark landscape with a lot of deaths. I think those White Walkers are going to just...
Who's going to die? Have you got a prediction for Game of Thrones?
Everyone.
Who's going to live?
Who's going to live? I believe that Daenerys and Jon will be on that Iron Throne at the end of it, together.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That's what I think. I think if you look at it as a whole picture, there's a lot of things that happen in Game of Thrones from left field. People die that you wouldn't expect to, and story arcs you think will pan out. But I think at the end of the day, the long and short of it, it's a story with the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And they generally pan out in the way you'd expect. And I think with something like this, it's gonna fall on its own sword in the way that Lost did, where I think the end episode is going to be spectacular, but the resolution to the story may leave a little bad taste in some people's mouths, because people won't be expecting the obvious because it's Game of Thrones. Do you see what I'm saying? And then it happened and they go, oh, that's a little bit disappointing, because there'll be, there's Game of Thrones podcasts that are sitting there right now and they will hyperbolize and theorize about all the ways this could end. And I think it will just be the general hero's journey ending, where
I hope so. I
good
hope so.
prevails. And if you look at the big picture, the two people that are generally pretty good in this are Daenerys and Jon. They make bad choices for the greater good. There is the theory going around for quite a while with this that I'm a true believer in, that Tyrion will join them on that throne, and it will become almost like a democracy.
It'll be the hand, won't it?
Yeah, well, it'll be a democracy. They are the three people in that kingdom where you actually look at them and go, yeah, they're all right. And there's the theories about the Dragonborn, where three were born from the dragon, and Tyrion in the books is described to look a lot more like a Targaryen. Jon is theorized to be her cousin. Tyrion is going to be her cousin or something, and they're all actually related, and they're all the Dragonborn, and essentially they're all Targaryen to a degree, but this will unite the stronger families and take down the horrible ones.
The Lannisters.
The Lannisters, basically. And that's how I see it ending, is the three of them will be there in control, almost like a democracy. Like you say, Tyrion as the hand, because if you look at it, you've got the Queen, who's the compassionate one, the one for the people. You've got Jon Snow, who is the tactician and the general, and then you've got Tyrion, who is the Democrat.
Right.
He's the brains and the government almost. He can run that side of it. So that's why I think as a trinity, the three of them can really run that kingdom. And I think that's how I want to see it end. But
so, what about the likes of the Hound and the Mountain and Arya, and what's going on with them? How many of them are going to make it?
I think Arya will survive. But I think maybe her maybe more of a sort of general capacity, like she'll work it, she'll be someone in the army or someone that will be a leader to a group of people that do some work, almost like the Knights of Ren or something like that, those sort of, that she will run, because she's got the brain, she's got the smarts, and she's got the skill, and she took down the Hound, and it's she left him there to rot. So she's got that part of her that can be unforgiving when she needs to be, which is what Jon hasn't got. Jon she's
a proper meanie, she is.
Yeah, and she's great for it, and that's why she's so strong, and she's a brilliant character and a great archetype for people in general as well girls and people to look up to, because she's a strong and independent character and don't take no crap from no one. I'm a little bit disappointed how her arc went in the last couple of series when she disappeared with the Faceless Man, and it didn't really get anywhere. We had a whole season of her doing stuff and then just going, this ain't for me, and walking off.
She got her revenge by putting the two boys in a pie.
I think that was a little bit of Luke on Dagobah, and knowing who she is, knowing who Luke was, finding herself.
Finding herself, yeah.
And I think that's where that was going.
I mean, yeah.
I've heard that Cersei might be pregnant as well.
Probably. She's got a lot of family.
They're a close family, let's be fair.
They are a close family, yes, they are.
To be fair, if Lena Headey was my sister, I'd be having some really real arguments in my head. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, in general, I think it's going to pan out the way we kind of expect it to with the hero's journey, where the good guys will prevail. I don't think that they'll end a series like that on a strange note of, like, I need to call them the Kardashians. What are they called? The Khal Drogo, that lot there.
Yeah,
them sitting on the Iron Throne. That won't happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
Where you go, oh, well, okay, and then it ends because there's more story to tell. The whole point of the story.
I think Gwyneth Paltrow will be there, and Arya will be there, and I think we're going to see Tyrion there, and I think we're going to see Jon and his parent sister, and I think you're right, mate. I think we're going to see almost like a democratic table.
And I'm going to make one more prediction about Arya. She kills Cersei.
Oh, that would be a fantastic ending. Yeah. That would
She
be
kills Cersei, and I
That's-
think it will be in cold blood in front of everyone. I don't think it will.
across the
She'll
throat.
have her on her knees in the middle of that
Yeah.
throne room, and
Yeah,
she'll
many-faced man, she'll take off a mask.
yeah.
That would be
It'll
wonderful.
Jon Snow
That would be
standing
wonderful.
there, and he won't do it because he's too noble. Because I do like Jon Snow, but
He's
he's that
fantastic.
annoying archetype of I've got to do the right thing all the time. And I think in a world like Game of Thrones, you've got to be cutthroat, and that's exactly
You've
what
got to be the
Arya is.
Hound.
And yeah, and that's what Arya's becoming. She will become his right hand psychopath. When things need doing that he can't do, she'll go, all right, and she will not even think about it. And like you say, I've got that image in
What
my
about
head.
Sansa? Because she did a big old twist at the end by getting rid of Littlefinger, didn't she?
And I think that could be a big surprise for us as well, where Arya faces off with Sansa about something.
Yeah, I think they're going to bump someone big off in the first episode.
Yeah,
We're going to have some kind of oh my word thing.
yeah, we're going to have to, because we've waited for 2 years for this, for a TV series. That doesn't happen often, not unless you're rebooting something further down the line.
What about the eunuch? Do you think he might get a noble end, or do you think?
What, Reek?
I think they got rid of his name.
No, not Reek, not Reek. What's his name? The bald-headed guy who's the
Varys.
Varys. Thank you. Yeah.
Varys.
Do you think he might get a?
Varys will bite it.
Do you think?
Yeah. I like Varys as a character, but let's be honest, he's not someone you want hanging around.
No, I think he's spread too many gossips.
Yeah.
I think the same with Littlefinger. I think he served his purpose. I think the new series is going to be less politics and more violence.
Yeah.
And action.
I
wouldn't be surprised if Tyrion took Varys out, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I'd like to see that.
That's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah.
We have to do this. I think we could fall down a rabbit hole here of Game of Thrones. But I tell you what, before the new season comes out,
and we've waited 10 minutes.
But I think when we get this about to drop, maybe we should do a Game of Thrones recap and get a talk about. Because I'm going to sit there. I know that before Wednesday, April, is it coming out?
I
think before then I'm going to rewatch. Start the new year on, because it's been 2 years since the last series. I'm going to sit and watch it all again. It won't take long, a couple of days. It's Game of Thrones. I'll turn it on and
I'll be joining you soon. I think the good thing we could probably do, mate, is actually to sort of press play at the same time and watch them.
Yeah, well, maybe we could do some
make some notes for a future show.
Maybe we could do some commentaries on it, even.
Very cool. Very cool.
On the good episodes, not the boring ones. Oh, hang on, there aren't any. It's all good. It's Game of Thrones.
Have we had any more interaction from our listeners, or?
Well, we have interaction every day from our listeners, because they're a great bunch of lovely people.
We do, don't we?
And I see new names popping up all the time, to be honest.
I've got a question to ask Dave Donovan. If you watched Walk in the Woods, what do you think of it?
There we are, Dave. You've got to answer that question now. In fact, what you could even do is you could email us at Retroing and send us a little MP3.
Right.
And we could play it on the show.
I'm going to just pop in there. You can email us. You can. If anyone has emailed us recently and I haven't got back to you, I'm sorry. I think I updated my phone and I reinstalled my email, and it's not actually linked to our one anymore. And I've only realised this in the last couple of days. So I've got to have a look in and see if anyone's actually emailed us, because,
we're not.
My bad.
We're retroing.
Yeah, my bad. So I'll have a look. Well, we're retro. I mean, all this email stuff, this new fandangled internet-y things, I don't get it all the time. I thought I signed in. Yeah, send us now. I can do that. Smoke signals, I'm pretty good with them as well. But yeah, I'll have a look over the next couple of days. But yeah, do email us in. Like you say, a little MP3. That'd be great, because we'll drop it into the show as well. So, I don't know more interact. Well, there's loads of interaction, just general everyday questions, comments, and they're all great. It's lovely to see, and there's a wide variety of opinion, which I like in there.
I heard from my friend Drew that I watched Avatar with. He listened to the show, and he obviously really enjoyed it. He remembered going to see it, and he's currently doing artwork at Fort Amherst.
Nice.
So yeah, if you ever get a chance, have a look at Fort Amherst stuff. Photography's really good. Fort Amherst is brilliant. That's really good show, though.
Oh.
Really good.
I'll have a look at that. Question I did want to ask before we get into whatever we're talking about today. Have you two watched anything this week?
Yes.
Well, I know you have a bunch of old crap, probably.
Go on, Jeremy. Let's hear it. What have you been watching?
I haven't actually had the time. I've been really busy. So I watched in a 24-hour period. I watched Predator before I went to bed. I got up in the morning. I watched Predator again. Then I watched Alien, and then I watched Predator. So that was quite a busy day.
You watched Predator 3 times in 24 hours.
And I've never watched a movie that often before, and I still love it.
The original Predator.
Yeah, the original one,
okay.
Which is still the best one. I've had to watch Nativity today.
Oh dear, and that's a tough watch.
Well, I've always hated Nativity.
Was it the first? Was it the first one you watched with
1 and 2?
Right, 1 and 2. So the first one has got Nicholas Lyndhurst, is it? That's right.
No, Martin Freeman's in it.
Martin Freeman.
Is he? Right. Okay.
And I'm not a fan of Martin Freeman, and I think that the Mr. Poppy is just a bit of a weirdo, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him around kids.
Exactly. I don't think in the real world he'd be allowed near school. However, it made Freddie put down his phone and watch it. Alana knew every single word of every line of every song, and they were totally engrossed in it. So if I looked away from the screen and watched the two of them, I really enjoyed it. If I had to sit there and watch the movie, I'd be like, oh god. But I even quite, I can punch puppies and not worry about it. They're quite emotional watching them enjoying a movie as much as they do. It's kind of like us watching Star Wars and mouthing every line.
Yeah.
Nativity 2 I was a bit disappointed with that because it's got David Tennant in it. And I was like, oh look, Doctor Who. But it was even worse than the first one. So.
I feel your pain because I had to watch The Grinch today.
Which one?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, see. I'd like to watch a new one as well, but
the thing is, I think the Jim Carrey adaptation is actually very good. It looks brilliant, and I just hate him. He's great as the Grinch. I just hate Jim Carrey.
Oh, I like Jim Carrey.
I like Jim Carrey when he's doing serious. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favourite films. Number 23, I quite enjoyed. Truman Show, yeah, it's good because it's not as stupid. But when Jim Carrey's doing the faces and the stupid thing, that's cringeworthy.
What about number 23? What
about
23?
That's what I said. Yeah, it's good. It's a good film. Like, I enjoyed it. And like I say, Truman Show, it's not him being over the top, and that's why I like it. There's a couple of moments, like in front of the mirror, where he's being goofy that kind of bugged me. But I prefer him as a drama actor. Yeah. Or even in things like Kick-Ass 2, he's all right because it's not so over the top. But I really don't like that 90s cheesy rubber face Jim Carrey that sometimes comes out of his shell now. Yeah, I don't like it. Sorry, Jeremy.
That's all right. You don't like many movies I like, so I'm fine with that.
Well,
I think we're Star Wars, and that's it.
I watched one, the other night.
What did you watch?
That I think you will like. It shows that you don't use Instagram at all, but I watched the Stuff.
Oh, I love The Stuff.
Yes, great film.
Yeah, Chocolate Chip Charlie's in it.
Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great film. Absolutely brilliant.
I watched that when it came out. I love The Stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie when I was a kid. It must have been, I remember I'd got up in the middle of the night one night.
My mum was
my mum was awake downstairs and she was watching it, and it was one of those weekend nights where I got up. She was like, "Oh, just come and watch this with me." And I remember watching The Stuff with her. I must have only been about 10, 11 when I watched it, and I hadn't seen it since then. I was on a streaming site the other night, and I saw it on there. I thought I'm going to give this a go. It's brilliant from the get go because it's actually pegged as a comedy as well, isn't it? On the cover, it's a comedy from
a comedy version of The Blob, really. It's similar to The Blob, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's there's a marshmallowy type substance. I mean, it's one of these that if you watch it, the first sort of 15 minutes, it feels so disjointed because it's just quick, bam, 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 getting you into the story. And they cut a lot of corners, but it works because it is a cheesy 80s, 90s horror comedy movie, so it doesn't really need a lot of depth to it. But it starts off with the two guys standing in a yard, and there's this stuff coming out of the ground, bubbling white. And the first thing the old boy does is sticks his finger in it and tastes it. I think if I saw white bubbly stuff coming out of the ground, that wouldn't be my first reaction. But yeah, and then they both start eating and go, oh, maybe if we bottle this up. And then it cuts, and the next thing is the stuff is this worldwide sensation. So they did pretty well for themselves out of it. But it starts to consume them, doesn't it, and turn them into almost drone-like hive mind, where everyone who eats the stuff becomes, I don't know, it's a bit weird, isn't it? They just autopilot, and that little boy sees it move in the fridge, and he goes on a quest for destroying all the stuff that he can. But it's stupid good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my kind of movie, though, isn't it?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, you see, maybe you're going to embrace, humanoid from the deep and the Legend of Boggy Creek one day. You never know.
Right, okay. Legend of Boggy Creek, I saw the trailer. I can't get behind that, right? But Humanoids from the Deep, I need you to throw me more of these cheesy films, because I do like that era of cheese. Because that's what it is. I do like that.
I'll tell you, there's a Christmas one, Night of the Comet.
Night of the Comet, I've heard of this.
On Amazon.
I haven't got Amazon Prime, but I'll find it.
You'll find it. It's got quite a cult following.
I've heard of it many a time. I've just never watched it. Right, I'm writing it down now. I'm going to watch it.
I'm not going to tell you who's in it, because you'll watch it and go, oh, look at him.
Right, there you go. That's my next film I'll watch, Jeremy, for you. All right.
I can't promise you'll enjoy it, but it is without a doubt a Christmas movie.
Right, okay. We'll get onto the subject of Christmas movies next week, all right? Yeah. And I'll watch Night of the Comet in preparation.
Put in there for your Christmas movies. See if it makes your top 5.
Okay.
I'm thinking not, because it's not in mine. And I like those movies.
Yeah, but you say that, you give me some things like They Live. I've watched that, and that has really jumped up into my top echelons of movies. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I've watched Moon. You've watched They Live. Adam, have you watched Forrest Gump yet?
No, I haven't watched Forrest Gump yet. I'm in no rush to watch Forrest Gump, but I will watch.
Forrest Gump is a beautiful, wonderful movie.
He was watching bareback bikers from Berksville the other night.
Yeah, I was. So, do you want to hear what I've been watching this week? Because two of them are absolute sci-fi classics. The first one was Silent Running.
Oh, I love that film.
Really got to me. I think I haven't seen this movie for probably a good 5 years, I'd say, and it really affected me. And I was quite surprised how I'm going to say I get emotional. How emotional I got. It was really.
You get emotional turning the TV on.
Yeah, I do. But this was such a cracking film again. Just to rewatch it.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie, yeah.
Oh, it was amazing.
Do you know what, my mate Charlie, that I've mentioned quite a lot on here, he doesn't. For someone that I used to do a film podcast with, he hasn't actually seen many films, and we were talking about Silent Running, and he'd never seen it. I knew he'd loved it, so I actually bought him a copy on DVD, and the cheeky beggar has still got it on his shelf in the cellophane. And that was like 2 years ago.
That's terrible.
It's like he can't even put an hour and a half out of his life. And I hope you're listening to this, Charlie, and I'm calling you out.
It's so well worth watching. And the next film I watched was Dark Star.
Oh, I like Dark Star.
Now, it wasn't as good as I remembered.
Yeah, I think it's a nostalgia thing, man.
It was a good nostalgia drop. Yeah, it takes a while to get into where this film is really going. You get the idea that there's these guys floating through space, and they're slowly getting rid of planets that are unstable. So what's left are habitable planets. The cast, I couldn't remember who was in it. But there's nobody spectacular in it. It's not brilliantly directed, but it's very funny, and in a really dry way. Well worth checking Dark Star out if you haven't seen it. It's got some really cheesy 80s graphics to it, but it's worth a watch.
It's definitely a watch.
It's definitely a watch.
Is it one of the ones that's better in nostalgia?
Yeah.
You enjoy
it totally is.
Kid, and then you watch it as an adult and you go,
yes.
The Goonies. You have week, watch the Goonies. And I watched the Goonies on my very first ever date, 22nd of December 1985, and I loved it. But I watched it a few weeks ago and I thought, actually, it's not all that.
It's a great film. Stop it.
I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you.
When did I last watch it? Last month, I think. I loved it.
I watched it 2 weeks ago. I watched it 2 weeks ago, and I kind of agree with you. I got a little bit like I
I'm
wanted to press the fast forward button a couple of times. Anyway,
It's not that I didn't enjoy it; it just wasn't as good as I remembered.
for sure. I decided
Sound
to
like my wife.
I decided to give my TV a little bit of a blast of the Phantom Menace. And
Sorry, you're going to sit here and tell me Goonies is not very good, and then tell me you sat there and watched Phantom Menace.
I didn't say it's not very good. I said that I can understand where Jeremy's coming from. It's not. It is very nostalgic, and it's got a little bit of cheese to it. But yeah, it's a great film. It's a great film. It's a cracking film.
I think what we were talking about the other week, where we've been mollycoddled. They couldn't bring that out these days, and market it as a kids' movie.
That's right.
It's dark.
Yeah, like I said, that bit with Chunk where they got his hand in the blender. Yeah. I was watching it with April, and I was like, I don't know if I want to see this because it's horrific.
And there's sex references and drug references, and there's a lot that you couldn't get away with these days.
One film that is dark that does have kids in it is Super 8. I watched Super 8 again, which I know. Hyped. I wanted to watch it because we've got obviously JJ making episode 9, and I thought I'd give that another watch. I started. I'm going to try. I'm about quarter way through of rewatching Looper, and the last thing that I watched was The Christmas Chronicles on Netflix.
Yes, told you.
Well, I'd already seen it, and I thought it was an absolutely just such a lovely film, but it was well worth watching again. And I watched it. So I watched it this afternoon with my son, and it was really cracking, and highly recommend that movie.
I've not seen it yet, so
well, you should do before next week.
Yes,
I'm glad you did. Yeah.
The thing about Super 8 that was weird for me. Now, when I was young in the 70s, we lived near Chatham Dockyard, and Chatham Dockyard was still a going concern, and having the parents that I did, children were just like kicked out in the morning, and you come home when it's dark, and that was kind of your life. And we used to hear the siren at Chatham Dockyard, the knocking off siren, and it was an air raid siren, but it sounded like some weird monster wailing. And me and my friend Darren Carter, bless him because he's passed away now, but we were convinced that we could hear an alien wailing in the night to the moon because he wanted to find his way home. We would see where the foxes had pulled bins out everywhere and there's rubbish all over the road. And at the ages of 8 and 9, we'd written Super 8. We were convinced that an alien had crashed. It was pulling all the bins apart and repairing its ship and building itself a new ship. And it was living down by, again, Fort Amherst, on the Great Lines, in the woods. And it was, when I watched Super 8, it was like, that's my childhood.
But I don't think JJ would have used the location of Chatham.
Yeah, but it happens to all of us, Jeremy. We all have that one idea. This true story, this. I actually thought about MP3s before MP3s were a thing, right? And my wife knows the story, and it bugs me. If I wasn't 9 years old, I'd be a millionaire, right? Because of that idea. But yeah, I'm glad you went back to Super 8 as well, because I think talking about the movie itself and Jeremy, the way it was received, it was really well received, that movie, and rightly so, because it is visually and aesthetically very, very good for what it's intended to do. I think if they released it now, after things like Stranger Things, it wouldn't be as well received, because what it did at the time was it made an 80s movie in a way that an 80s movie was made. It felt like I was watching an 80s movie, and we didn't get that at that time. It was all progressive. It was all cinema trying to push forward, and then JJ made this film that was so, for us, it was for our generation to look back and enjoy something that we hadn't had in years. That Amblin type of movie that we would have. And that's what's good about it, and I think that's why it's well received. Story-wise, I think it's very good for the first half, and when you actually find that weird liquid monster metal thing, I don't know what it really is. That's where it fell apart for me. I liked the kids going down the quarry and the weird stuff. That was 80s, and it was great. And the film on the tracks. But soon as it started to pick up, I thought it was too glossy. I thought the monster itself and that was too glossy. It needed to be more in line with the rest of the movie. And I think if it was released now, it wouldn't critically do as well.
Well, our monster was more of a Wookiee. It was like a Bigfoot, hairy alien thing.
It was a mirror.
Yeah, not in those days. I was about 4'1" and skinny as a bean. But yeah, we called him the Scavenger, or Scav for short, and we were terrified of him. We could see him everywhere we went. I mean, but it was literally watching that movie. It was like, JJ, where have you been stalking me for 40 years or something? I mean, it was really exactly apart from the massive train crash. Obviously,
have you not seen the mid credits scene on it? He just looks at the camera and winks. Cheers, Jeremy.
R.I.P. Darren.
I think another movie that's very similar to that is Midnight Special. Have you seen that?
Oh, mate, I've got this in my watch list for like 6 months. Michael Shannon I think he's amazing. Everything I see him in, even I know people have their reservations with Man of Steel, but him as Zod was fantastic. He brings this gravitas to it's a great film. It's the best Superman film there is. Fight me. No, fight me on that, because Man of Steel is the best one because it's not a bloody Superman film, and I hate Superman. It's ridiculous.
It's a masterpiece.
Man of Steel is a masterpiece. It's gorgeous, and the way they dealt with the backstory and everything. I could go on for that for hours. I'm not going to get there, but yeah, Michael Shannon is fantastic, and this was in my watch list because I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It's a music video. Is it Bulletproof? Titanium, that's it.
Oh yes,
Titanium. So I watched that video, and it's very Chronicle-esque, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And someone I know said it was very reminiscent of Midnight Special as well, and I was like, right, okay, because I think that music video for Titanium is beautiful.
It's wonderful,
really
yeah.
Well done. It's like a little mini movie, and they said to me Midnight Special was very similar, and I put that straight in my watch. I've just not got around to it. I don't know why.
It's really good. It's slow moving. It's very you'll love it. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, I know I will. It's everything I know about it. I know I'll enjoy it. I just time.
I watched him in Shape of Water. I didn't like Shape of Water. Did you watch it?
I did. Yeah.
No interest. Do you know what? I lost interest in that film, right? When I saw the poster for it, and my mate Charlie agrees with me on this. We both said it, and there's nothing more off-putting to me in art when it's self-gratification. And that poster is abhorrent. All it needed to say was a film by Guillermo del Toro. That's all it needed to say. Music by Guillermo del Toro, produced by Guillermo del Toro, directed by Guillermo del Toro, written by Guillermo, and it's just literally his name again and again and again. It's like, get it, mate, right? And that to me is, I know it sounds petty, but I think it takes away a lot from the movie. It's so self-gratified. It's like, look at me, look what I've done, rather than look at this movie.
I completely disagree. I think it's a stunning piece of visual filmmaking that tests the viewer. It's got superb acting, and it just is a little bit different from
I bet you got emotional watching it. Yeah.
I did get emotional watching it. I did. I just think it's.
But he couldn't even be bothered with the character design. He just nicked Abe Sapien.
There's a lot of borrowed stuff in it. Of course, there is a lot of borrowed stuff in it, but I think it's just a beautiful film. And again, it's well worth a watch. I think it's well worth a watch.
You think Goonies is not as good, so you're wrong.
Well, I didn't say it's not as good. I think it has. It shows its age a little, and that's where I think Jeremy was coming from. That there's a lot of content in that movie that's a little bit out of date.
Well, yeah, it's made in the 80s.
Yeah, but there's some bits and pieces in there.
Oh, Predator, but that's not out of date.
So, talking of out of date, and talking of dates, and talking of Christmas, shall we talk a little bit about what we had as children and some of these Christmas toys that were best selling of the year?
Yeah, let's do the best selling of the years. We'll talk about our Christmas memories, I think, because what I want to talk about will be a Christmas episode. I can't talk about Christmas toys until then, but talk about best selling, because I want to know what they were.
Jeremy and I were indeed around in the 70s, and I don't want to go back to.
Right, hang on, I just got to write
1970.
time code because I just got to put the Hovis advert music in here. Right.
I don't want to go on to sort of 1979. So let's just go into 1980. What was the best-selling toy of 1980? You two, what do you think it was?
Best-selling toy of 1980.
And
I'm going to go
it cost
Rubik's
£1.
Cube.
It was indeed the Rubik's Cube, the best-selling puzzle game of all time, selling 350 million cubes worldwide by January
Clearly,
2009.
Jeremy did not listen to A Year in Retro 1980, did he?
He would have known that,
Did,
wouldn't
but
he?
drunk a lot
Yes.
then.
You know, the thing is, this cost £1. I mean,
Yeah,
what
but
a
back
fantastic...
then you could buy a car for that, couldn't you?
Well, you went far off. In 2003, the World Cube Association was set up to organise the worldwide competition to beat the official world records. And I think somebody did it a little while ago in like 4.8 seconds or something. I mean, that's pretty astounding, isn't it?
Do you know someone who's surprised?
That just made me think, well, they couldn't have mucked it. They couldn't have messed it up that much.
Yeah. Do you know someone who's surprisingly good at Rubik's
Justin
Cube?
Bieber.
Justin Bieber. Yeah. Have you ever seen the videos, Jeremy?
Yeah, I
He's
watched him with kids because Alana really wants to.
phenomenal. I mean, I think the guy's an absolute insert expletive here, but his skills at a Rubik's Cube are phenomenal. My wife's good. She could do one side. That's one side more than me.
Dude, Will Smith does it as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because he did it in Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Will Smith, didn't he?
Yeah, but I've actually seen him, like, videos of him doing it. And I think he does it, the one I've seen, he did it faster than Justin Bieber,
Wow.
which is slightly better. I'm pleased about that.
So in 1981, the best-selling toy of that year was the Lego train set. Advancing from the older versions without tracks, Lego's 1981 train set included paper tracks, electric motor unit, and it cost £40 at the time, which is probably about 100 quid in today's money. Did you have Lego, Jeremy, in sort of 1981? Was that a gift you would have had on your Christmas list?
No, I was all about Star Wars then, I think.
Yeah, same here.
That would have been. Unless that might have been, no, I did before I got a home computer, before my VIC-20 and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Star Wars what it was.
Best-selling toy of 1982 was the BMX bike. Now, what film do you think, Andy, was the one that propelled the BMX into the mainstream?
E.T.
It had to have been, hadn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we had BMX Bandits with
Nicole Kidman, wasn't it?
Nicole Kidman, but the BMX bike, grazed knees, possibly broken bones, but the BMX bike provided no fun injuries of stunt riding. And I tell you what, I had a Kuwahara. Well, in fact, I didn't have a Kuwahara. My friend Simon had the Kuwahara, which was the same bike Elliot rode in ET, and his father very kindly stripped my bike back to the bare metal and resprayed it, and I put Kuwahara stickers on, so it looked like it. And but you know that, but in that year, 1982.
Sorry, Jerry?
That's repro. You're not allowed to do it.
It was a repro. It was a repro.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can still get a BMX bike today, but the 1982 version of a BMX would have cost you back then £45. 1983, Cabbage Patch Kids. I don't think either of us or any of us bought any of those wretched little horrible looking things. But they were extremely popular back then in 1983, and they were costing around 15 quid back then. 1984, Optimus Prime. The Transformer was a massive hit with mainly obviously boy viewers from the TV program, where it was futuristic, extraterrestrial, galactic car androids, and Decepticons was there obviously their enemies.
I've never been into the Transformers.
And did you ever have any?
I was I had a lot of Transformers toys when I was little, but I think, again, like most of my toys, they were hand-me-downs from my brother. I did like Transformers when I was a kid, but I think, if memory serves, I probably didn't like it as much as I think I did when I was a kid, because looking back, I really only played with the toys. Maybe watched the cartoon when it was on. I think I was more GoBots, to be honest with you, when I was a kid. I like them more, because I remember going and seeing the movie at the cinema for that one. I think that was one of the first experiences I had at the cinema, was the GoBots movie. Yeah, I'm not really.
And since then, the movies, the Michael Bay movies, have done Well, they've done a lot of money, that's for sure, but they've done nothing for the franchise. But Bumblebee is going to be a huge hit, I think. I think it will be a very big hit. Did you guys see that I posted on the Facebook group the new Optimus Prime that's hopefully coming up very soon, where it's the truck, and you press a button, the thing transforms by itself.
Mm.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that comes to fruition.
And I know you like it, great.
Yeah, well, there you go. 1985, Care Bears were the
I
cuddly
never
toy
deviated
for
from
kids.
Star Wars.
Sorry?
I was my Christmas present was Star Wars with a brief flirtation with He-Man.
Well, we'll get to that.
A brief flirtation with him.
We'll get to your
I did
flirtation.
He-Man.
Like ships in the night. You and Prince Adam. Was he
And
your
Ram
Prince
Man.
Charming? Oh yeah, you were Ram Man.
Well, in
This is
1985,
going a bit
Care
dark.
Bears
Okay.
were certainly something that my sister wanted, and they started off as humble greeting cards, and they're still very, very collectible today. Obviously, they have been well used in children's bedrooms, but if you can find a mint condition one, they go for some serious money. 1986 was Laser Tag. Do you remember this?
I
Laser
had one of
Tag.
them.
It had a load of hype. I remember it.
Terrible.
I guess before 1986. I remember lots and lots of adverts for them in newspapers, magazines, and then seeing them in the Argos catalogue. They were extreme. It was 50 quid, I think, for the whole set.
Yeah.
Which you got the belt with the receiver bit, the red ball, the gun, the chest guard, the helmet. I think you got a cap as well. Now, I think there was an animated TV series, wasn't there, called Laser Tag Academy or something like that? Do you remember that?
Too busy shooting my brother.
There's a similar thing I've seen this year in Tesco. It's like £15 for a laser tag gun, but obviously you have to buy two. But
Yeah, but
other than that, there's not been a lot of there's a lot of nerf. But the
have you
laser
seen the
tag
Harry
thing
Potter ones? Battle ones?
No.
Stace bought them for me for a few years back for Christmas. We didn't have April at the time, and we opened our presents, and there it was. I opened these battle ones up, and you flick them at each other, and you could do the same thing. They hit each other, and you got a health bar on them. And straight away, our Christmas morning went out the window. No more presents. I pulled them out. They got straight open. We were around the house just firing spells off at each other.
Well, something else that was a huge hit in 1987 was the Koosh ball. It was a fun ball of 2,000 natural rubber filaments that
Few of them
made this ball. You could squish it, prod it, and you could chuck it at walls. But I remember them being extremely popular, and they were stocking fillers costing between £1 and £3.
Yeah.
1988.
No recollection of them.
Have you none?
No.
You'd know it if you saw it.
I think that's the year it became legal to drink in pubs.
Probably, of course, yeah. Well, 1988. It was Ghostbusters all the way, and the Ghostbusters toys were a huge hit that year for Christmas. Mainly the figures, which I think you could make their jaw go down and give them that fright look.
Yeah, I had some of them. They were great. Loved them.
The Stave Puff Marshmallow Man was definitely the one to have, wasn't it? Really.
I've actually got upstairs do you remember the real Ghostbusters, the cartoon? Because they couldn't call it Ghostbusters, the cartoon, because there was already the previous Ghostbusters cartoon that wasn't about that. But the real Ghostbusters cartoon from around then, and they brought out a electronic talking game, and I have one of them upstairs in pretty good condition. I'll have to get it out one day and do a little unboxing or something, because it's a cool little game. It's a vertical bolt with magnetic pieces, and it makes noises. So a ghost to come down a corridor, and it'll say Egon go left, and you have to move the counter for Egon left, and it makes all these noises when you're there and you fight them. It's a brilliant little game, especially for the time.
1989. What do you think the best-selling toy for kids of 1989 was, Andy? It was electronic.
It's Sega.
It was the Game Boy.
Oh, it's a Game Boy. It's going to be 91, isn't it? I think the Mega Drive on 1990.
Yeah, this was one of the priciest things on the list. A total of 50 quid for this. Now, you can get a beautiful condition one for about 50 quid now. So
they hold their value.
They do hold their value, yeah.
I really wanted one when I was a kid. I remember walking around Lakeside and just seeing them and I just wanted one so bad.
Well, we've seen so much merch now, haven't we, in places like Menkind and various sort of shops that sell retro, showing sort of Game Boy, messenger bags and all that kind of wallets and things, and T-shirts. I remember it was on mobile phone cases and trainers even. But I mean, definitely, probably one of the greatest Christmas presents a kid could get, really, of that year. 1990. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys.
Oh,
Whopping
hell
30
yeah.
million sales, £1 an action figure based on the original comic book series. Did you have those?
Yep. Massive Turtles fan as a kid, mate.
The series offered 10 different figures, a team of 5 good guys, 5 enemies with featured vehicles and accessories. And the most memorable feature of the figurines was the creation of ooze, the radioactive slime that made the Turtles Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and Leonardo.
Okay.
Green fight machines.
Pop quiz for you.
Go on.
What comic book world does the Turtles exist in? Popular comic book world does the Turtles exist in?
Jeremy, you have a guess?
I know nothing about comic books.
Netflix show.
Power Rangers.
I was gonna say Daredevil.
Yep.
Crying out loud.
The same ooze
Yes.
that blinds him is the same ooze that turns him into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I believe it was the two artists of Daredevil broke off and did the Turtles, or it was an homage to them as well, and they sort of coincide. Hence the hand and the foot, the hand in Daredevil and the foot soldiers in, pointless knowledge. Sorry, carry on.
No, it was probably something to do with Miller, who wrote Daredevil, very, very possibly. 1991 was the Sega Game Gear. I had this and I absolutely loved it. It was one of I just loved the Game Gear. I thought it was just a fantastic handheld console. It had a full color backlit screen and a landscape format. The console could edge Game Boy. It couldn't really edge Game Boy, being the most popular console, but it was just a very nice looking machine. Did you ever pick one of those up?
No, I never.
I didn't know.
No.
To be honest, it was a strange thing growing up. I don't know what it was. My dad's he's retired now, but he was a computer analyst, an IT consultant, and I've always been brought up with computers. I mean, I remember 4 years old and I'm sitting there just loading games up in DOS, and I remember doing this, and that's how I learned to type, and that's why I'm pretty savvy with games. But for some reason, he was always averse to handheld consoles. I don't know what it was, and Game Boy, Game Gear, anything like that I ever wanted. I was like, nah. I mean, we always had Mega Drives and everything else, but just whenever I wanted a handheld, it never happened.
Jeremy, I think you might have had these back in 1992, or maybe you didn't. WWF action figures. Did you ever collect those?
I didn't. Although I am a massive wrestling nerd, I never had the figures, because the figures. I mean, by then I was 21. I'd bought a house and.
Yeah, sorry. You still have toys. Don't give it that I was 21.
I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't have toys. I didn't have any toys. I was collecting videos then.
I think there's a period, isn't there, where you stop with toys and then you get older and start going, I can do this.
I think some people stop, some absolutely don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think I stopped at probably about 14. I discovered there are other things to play with, I think, at that age. And it's not until when the Mega Drive came out, that reignited my interest in computer games, because obviously I had, a VIC-20 and a Commodore 64, and I loved them. I mean, they were brilliant. I remember my whole family loving those. But I think you kind of do the whole, going out and getting drunk thing, and your money goes on alcohol rather than WWE figures. Well, I'm still a massive WWE fan, WWF in those days when it was more fun. But I've never had a wrestler figure.
I remember these. I certainly remember these being extremely popular, and there was just so many of them. I think it was quite overwhelming. I mean, there's 96 figures in the vintage Star Wars line, but I just seem to remember there were just being so many of these wrestlers. They're at $4.99 each. These guys. They didn't really. I suppose they looked like the guy they were supposed to look like. 1993, arguably made famous by Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2, was the Talk Boy.
Yes, which wasn't actually a real thing. It was actually made for the movie.
Yeah. So this contains sort of the conventional elements of a cassette recorder, plus it had a microphone. And was this the thing he used for? I can't remember him. What did he use it for?
It was in the hotel room so that he could talk to Herkimer Hamolka. No, what's his name? Tim Curry. That's the one. I'm thinking Congo. Jeez. Yeah, he was talking to Tim Curry using it, wasn't he? I think it was using the dad's voice. That was it. It was for the room service, wasn't it? And it was just put it. He was using it with his dad's voice on it.
Wonderful.
But yeah, they made that for the movie and then sold it as a toy and became the best-selling toy of that year.
Well, what was cool about the Talk Boy was that it had the ability to slow down and speed up the recording, so you could make your voice really change. It was 1999 back then, and was the must-have toy of 1993. And in 1994, Power Rangers. Can you name the main characters, Andy? Come on.
Billy?
Yeah.
Joe? No, that's a real name. There's going to be a Zach in there.
You got 6. You got Zach, you got 2.
Billy, Zach. Man, no, I can't do the others. Come on.
Tommy?
Tommy, yeah, Jesus, he was the Green Ranger. Damn it, right? Yeah.
Kimberly?
Yeah, Kimberly. Okay, she's Pink Ranger. Yeah, I know him all now. Yeah. It's been a long time.
Who was automorphic? Oh, I'm sorry, it was Jason.
Yeah.
And there was a yellow lady. Now, what was her name?
I don't know, probably something quite racist.
Trini.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, because they were. I mean, that is as much as I love the Power Rangers. It is. Come on, like the Pink Ranger doesn't have to be a girl. The Black Ranger doesn't have to be a black guy.
Doesn't have to be.
The Yellow Ranger has to be a Chinese person. Oh, come on, this is a little bit, to the mark here. I didn't like it. But there is actually, they did make up for that recently with one of the, I think it was one of the comics where the Pink Ranger is a guy. So they're finally getting with the times.
But he looked good in that pink suit, I thought.
Yeah.
What the biggest problem that Power Rangers had was that by this time the Chinese market was huge, and they were like bootlegging these figures, and the market was massively flooded. But I mean, these figures are only $4.99, so it doesn't really sort of much.
It's a weird thing. I think I was just entering secondary school in this sort of time, so I think I stopped playing with toys around then, like figures and stuff, because it wasn't cool, especially at my school. You'd probably get knifed if you took it in. I'm not even joking. It doesn't exist anymore in my school. So yeah, I stopped playing.
It's compulsory to carry a knife, wasn't it, at your school?
Yeah. You had to check in with it to make sure you were safe. It
was a handbag at my Essex school.
But yeah, fake tan. You had to take that with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those. But I love the Power Rangers, and I've always enjoyed the Power Rangers. It is one of those things where I can turn around and understand why people don't like it. I get it. It is cheesy as all hell, and it is so bad. But that's what makes it so endearing. It's a great program.
I really like the reboot movie, actually.
The movie, I love it, mate.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was really good. 1995, Pogs.
God, I had so many Pogs.
Unbelievable. I can remember them. Were they like bottle caps or something?
They were little round plastic discs. They were flat, probably as thick as a 2p piece and twice the size maybe. And what you did was you stacked them up on each other, and you had ones called Keenies, and they were thicker, harder plastic. They were heavier, and you could get metal ones and ones with shapes on them. And what you did is you threw the big one at the pile, and any that flipped over the other way, you kept. So you'd play against your friends, and obviously arguments ensued in the playground because they didn't actually want them, and then parents were talking to other parents going, give them back my Pogs and stuff like that, because I've spent a fortune on them. But that was the point of the game, but nobody ever played it really. It was more of a collect as many as you can collect, and I had thousands of them. And it must have been going back, probably about 10 years now. I went up into my parents' loft and I found all of my pogs up there, and I had the pog board game, which was hilarious because essentially it is already a board game itself. So all they did was built a board that just had a picture on it, and you played on the board. That was all it was, and it come with like 200 of pogs in it.
So
And
when you bought a pack of these, how many did you get in a pack?
it all varied. You could buy like a blind blister pack, I remember, that only had like 4 or 5 in it, but then you could buy whole tubes and, you know, the accessories, which was a plastic case to carry them in that would have 50 in it and things like that. I know, like I say, the board game, I think I had 100 or 200 in it, but I had thousands. I mean, literally, when I opened this box at my parents' house, it was just crammed to the rafters with pogs, and they're only little thin discs. And I sold that on eBay. I think I must have got about 50 odd quid for it.
Wow.
Going back, yeah, because it was, I mean, I kick myself now because I'll probably get even more, because it was in perfect condition as well. Perfect. Yeah.
Well, coming from 1996 and now the subject of internet memes and jokes, and at 1999 this was the best-selling toy of that year, and it was the Tickle Me Elmo.
I would do my Elmo impression, but I'm not going to right now.
Oh, you should. You should.
No, I'm not.
You should.
I get all
This was a
embarrassed.
huge
I
thing.
might dub it in afterwards.
This was a huge thing, wasn't it? I remember in America how massive it was when I think he appeared on Rosie O'Donnell's chat show, and versions of the doll with them were like swapping hands for like hundreds and hundreds of pounds until they came into the toy shops.
I went up to Hamleys with my mum that year that it came out, and we was back up London. We popped into Hamleys and we come down an escalator, and there was a stack, you know, where they stack them on top of each other in a big pyramid of these Tickle Me Elmos. And my mum's a lot like me, and we have a silly sense of humour. And I remember we come down this escalator and we both just looked at each other, and we went over and we set off as many of these Tickle Me Elmos as we could. And it was going crazy. As we walked away, we could just hear them all falling off of this stack. Like 30 odd Tickle Me Elmos just shaking and rattling around this big old pyramid of them.
Well, I think the one thing that would have been massive this year if they'd have brought this damn thing out is the new Chewbacca version of that. Did you see that at any of the cons this year? Yeah. Looks very, very cute. I reckon you had one of these, Andy, for sure. 1997, a Tamagotchi.
Nope, never had one.
You didn't have one of those. Never. I would have thought you'd had a little virtual pet in your pocket. No. Or maybe that was something else. Anyway, Tamagotchi creatures.
I had one of them.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know my wife did. My wife had them. Yeah.
I mean, it died because I neglected it because I didn't really care. But
exactly that, right? Because she was telling me, this was going back a couple of years. She was saying to me, "Oh, when I was a kid, I had a Tamagotchi. Blah blah. I really want one." And I found one online, right on eBay. So I bought it for her. I wrapped it up for Christmas. Thought a bit of nostalgia, nice little present, thoughtful. She had it for about a week before it was dead, right? What was the point of that? I'm not getting you another thing like that. It's horrible. You can't even look after an electric pet. And this was before we had a kid. I should have thought twice, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Well,
this
was obviously, this came from Japan, and this pocket-sized pet would die within half an hour of being unused or uncared for, and it was about half an hour if you didn't keep up with it. So the problem was that a lot of kids were taking them into schools, and their high maintenance led to the schools banning the toy due to the distraction it was causing. The cost of these was around $2.99 to $5.99. So I suppose these were probably like, you know, the fidget spinners of 1997. 1998, the Furby. Slightly more sophisticated and less likely to die was the robot pet, the Furby. Now, I remember these in stores. Ugly looking bleeders, weren't they? They look like porgs, sort of rabbit porgs, I suppose.
Another thing, you could all off, couldn't you?
Sorry?
Yeah, you could set all these off as well. Yeah. These sold 1.8 million units in its release year, and 14 million the following year. So in 1999, sold 14 million of the damn things. In 1999 came the Pokemon Nintendo. Now, this is one of these Game Boys that I'm really massively after to get for my son. Still trying to find one. The original 1999 Pokemon Nintendo game saw players focusing on finding, capturing, and training creatures known as
the original game, okay, right.
And there's Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Red, and there's the yellow Game Boy Color, which is what I'm kind of looking for right now. Now, after that, what would you say from that period of time? So the sort of late 90s.
Well, late 90s, mate, that's when I started finding booze myself. And to be
Yeah.
honest, it's all a haze up until about the
I
age
was going to
of
say, so for
22,
us,
I
for a
think,
point of
24.
view, there's a few things in there that I think we probably would have wanted. I mean, certainly the Game Boy would have been something that,
Hang on.
as a sort of teen,
Hang
late
on.
teen, what?
Buzz Lightyear.
Ah,
I bet he's one of them on their Toy Story toys, aren't they?
indeed. I
That
mean,
must have been 95, mustn't it? I think, actually.
well, I mean, I was only going up to 2000, but yeah, it's certainly in the 2000s. Buzz must have been in there with Woody as well, for sure. But this was just a list of from 19.
Sorry, we're losing you, Jeremy. What was that?
So I was bodybuilding the protein drink.
He was drinking a lot of protein drinks. The listeners heard that. Yeah, he was bodybuilding back then.
Probably put
But
red
no,
wine
that's
in
just
them.
a list really from sort of 1980 up to sort of to the year 2000, and there's certainly a couple of things in there. But guys, so Jeremy, let's take you back a little bit. Let's have a little think back to sort of when Christmas and Father Christmas was very much alive in your life, and you went downstairs that morning and you looked under your tree. What kind of things really stuck in your mind as a big gift present? What was your main presents of that sort of period?
Things that I remember. I remember getting a big Sylvester cat, massive Sylvester cat that had a elastic band on its feet, and you'd attach them to your feet and dance with it, which is ironic because that's probably the last time I danced.
You wanted that for Christmas?
I can remember being 1 year old, so I can remember all kinds of baby things.
Yeah.
I remember having a thing called a racing cheese, which was like a figure eight scale electric, and there was a pivoting bridge in the middle, and you had to get to the bridge first, and if you went over it, the bridge would go up, and then the person behind crashed into it.
I remember that. I remember that too.
I remember Tin Can Alley.
Oh yeah, Crossfire, Rebound.
Yeah, Stop Boris, I had.
Stop Boris, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what London thing. Stop Boris was actually like this giant spider thing on wheels that would slowly creep towards you. You had this really fantastic, like laser-looking gun, and if you shot it between the eyes, it would go back. And if you shot it enough, it would go back along this web until it fell off a little wooden thing, and it couldn't get back up. That was great. I mean, obviously, a plethora of stuff. I love my Star Wars.
Yeah, Andy, what were your memories from sort of your 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old self? And
What, Christmas?
Yeah.
We're talking? Right. Okay, well, there's a few things. I mean, I remember, again, a scale electricity type thing.
Was it TCR?
No, I did actually get the Le Mans 24-hour set 1 year off my uncle. That I remember. I don't know how much it cost him, but I remember my dad even kind of throwing a hissy fit, saying it was too much, because it was a big old set. It took up the whole living room when we put it out. But there was actually one scale electric type set. It wasn't. It was. I can't remember what it's called now. It was Air Track or something. And the cars were planes, and it had loops in it, so it would go around. And I mean, this must have been early 90s that I got this, very early 90s. And it was actually the first time that I remember watching Star Wars ever as well, was that same day. Because my dad and my uncle were putting it together in my nan's house. And it turned in from them to say, oh, this only take 10 minutes. It took about 3 hours to put this thing together. And my dad and my uncle arguing like mad while they were doing it. And I sat and watched Empire. And I remember that vividly because that was the first time that Star Wars really struck a chord. I'd seen it before, but that's my first real memory of watching it. But I think one of my greatest memories of Christmas, opening a present, and I think being really surprised at what I got, was it must have been Christmas of 1990. So I was 7. And that's when the Mega Drive came out, because I remember getting up stupidly early, and I didn't know what I was getting at all. It was one of those, when I was a kid, I didn't really want for presents, certain things. It wasn't like I really want that. It was like I got stuff and I was like, that's great. And I woke up and I we came down. Me and my brother must have been 5 a.m. or something like that. We've come downstairs. We've opened our presents, and the last one we opened was this big box. It was for the both of us, and it was a Sega Mega Drive. And I'd had my Master System before, and we got rid of that, but we got this Mega Drive, and we had Mortal Kombat and Aladdin. So 7 years old, and I'm playing Mortal Kombat, but never mind, right? And I remember opening it, and both of us, it was one of those moments where you're genuinely beside yourself with excitement. I was like, wow, oh my God, right? So my dad, in his half-dazed state, set it up on the TV for us and went back to bed. And he left us there till I think it was about 10 o'clock. We must have sat there for 3 or 4 solid hours playing Aladdin and Mortal Kombat together. And I think that's the last time me and my brother got on as well. So it was after that we argued over who was playing what, but that Mega Drive became a mainstay in my household for a long time, and we had other systems onwards, but we used to, Friday nights, we'd sit there and we'd play PGA Tour and Bomberman and things like that on there at Micro Machines, and that's still why it's one of my favorite systems. It's because of that Christmas and getting it then like it did. The only other memory I've got of a Christmas present, and that was another one, was we'd opened all of our presents, and my brother had, I can't remember what it was, he got something big, and you know when you're sitting there thinking, well, I didn't get that, I didn't get something like that, and all my presents were gone, right? And my mum was looking at me, she smiled, she went, oh, I think there's another one under the tree for you. And I walked out to the tree, past this big bike-shaped present that was next to the radiator, and I'm looking at the tree, and I'm like, there's nothing there. She's like, it's under the tree, babe. I was like, there is nothing there, Mum. And I was getting, she was like, turn around, and there's this big bike, and I'm like, oh crap. And I, and yeah, it was one of those, I think it was Apollo Kahuna, bright luminous orange. I don't know if you remember them, with the black writing on them. They were,
it's from Halfords.
Yeah, I got one of them. And 2 weeks later, it got stolen out of the shed. So yeah, yeah, that was good times. Because my dad cleverly put the hinges to the shed on the outside and padlocked it. So when we came home from the hospital, I remember my brother hurt his hand. We went to the hospital, and we come home, and the shed had been unscrewed on the hinges, and they just opened the door the other way and taken the bikes. Yeah, that was depressing. That was 2 weeks I had that bike. Yeah.
What about you, Adam?
Well, I think you could probably guess what was under what I got for Christmas. Certainly 78 was a Falcon, Landing Falcon, a Land Speeder, the Imperial Troop Transporter, Darth Vader's Imperial ship. Certainly, that was gonna be Christmas presents for 79 as well as 1980 with Empire Strikes Back. Right the way through till I got a chopper bike, which would have been a black one. They usually were red, I think, and blue, but there was a black version, a limited edition.
You didn't
and
mind
it was always one of the bike was always the gift that your parents would say, "Oh, do us a favour, go in the garage and go and get a chicken out of the freezer."
Yeah,
Oh, why do I have to go? You go get the chicken out of the freezer, and you go in the garage reluctantly, and there it is. There's the bike right in the middle of the garage. And
unless you're like me and just walk past it. And
I've done that. I did that before too. But things like getting the Corgi Batmobile, Batbike, and speedboat, and certainly probably 5 or 6 years old, getting a Thunderbird 2. Now, something a little bit later on, I think it was around 92, 93. So I was like 22, 23. And I remember being with this girlfriend, and she said, "Oh, what do you want for your Christmas?" And I said, "The Thunderbirds Tracy Island." And she's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, oh my God, they're making a Thunderbirds Tracy Island."
And then his New Year's resolution was to get a new girlfriend.
And you just could not. You couldn't buy that for love or money. There was like, parents were queuing for hours outside toy shops trying to get a Tracy Island. I didn't get one for that Christmas. I got one after Christmas, but man, God, that as a kid, if I didn't get that for Christmas and you'd ask for it, saying that's all I want is that. But what we were talking about earlier about Buzz Lightyear, that was 1996. It was the must-have Christmas. It retailed at around sort of 24, 25 quid. Now, I bought the Buzz Lightyear immediately, and I still have my Buzz, and I've got the box, which is actually separate from Buzz. But when Toy Story 2 came out, and you remember when they went to the toy barn, and there was all those Buzz Lightyears in that spaceship shaped box.
Yeah.
They released that one, and of course I went straight out with that. And
Yeah.
of course he's got lights flashing on his wings. That was just awesome. I couldn't, you know what? It was weird. I couldn't stop playing with my Buzz. It was really because it had voices, which was the actor's voice, because often the voices on these toys are not the original cast actors. And pulling the string of Woody and hearing there's a snake in my boot, and it's actually the voice of the actor and everything else, just wonderful. But yeah, I think what seems to be different now is that as a 13-year-old boy, then I was playing with 3 3/4-inch figures, and we had a console. We had a bike, but I was still playing with figures and still setting figures up and making dioramas. Now, it seems to be devices, it seems to be apps, it seems to be a lot less figure and toy orientation. In fact, we went into a couple of toy shops today and yesterday, and my daughter wasn't even interested in dolls anymore. She's 11. Seems to have just gone off the wayside. Fashion is going that way, and yet as most 11-year-old girls, I mean, certainly your daughter Jeremy still carries around her teddy, doesn't she, and likes still a little bit of that.
She's carrying the teddy that she got the day she was born, and a couple of other ones because she likes to sleep with them and things like that. But I think 11's that difficult age because they're pre-teen, possibly makeup, possibly dolls.
She's still daddy's little girl at home when she wants you, but when she's out with her friends, she's 30 years old.
I don't know, guys. I don't know if you
grounded.
If you were when you were that age, whether you felt embarrassed to sort of say to other kids of similar age that you were still playing with your Star Wars figures, or
no, I mean, again, me and Steve, from the other week, I met Steve when we both just turned 11, and we were hit off straight away, and we played with figures up until probably 13, 14 when women came along, and
see, the thing is, mate,
it's just more fun to play with.
I was fat with buck teeth. I didn't have to worry about playing with toys. That was the least of my problems. I went literally, my school was horrendous. That's a story for another time. We're talking needles and crime and violence and knives and everything at my school. So yeah, you didn't play with toys because you just didn't. No,
what a shame. Did you guys ever get for Christmas a board game? Was a board game ever on the Christmas list, or was it something that your parents bought and for themselves and the family? Because I remember,
this is actually a Christmas memory that got ruined for me. Was a board game. It was a present. I got it from my grandparents. It was Atmosphere. Do you remember that, the video board game?
I do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had that, yeah.
And I was at my nan's house, and my present was sitting there under her tree, and we was going to open it, and I've looked at it, and you could see through the paper, and I could see it was Atmosphere, and I just put the face of surprise on when I opened it afterwards.
Oh, man. I'm from quite a big family. There's 5 children and from my parents, so board games were quite a big thing. Mousetrap, Scrabble, and loads of Scrabble. And then when Trivial Pursuit came out, that was...
I think if you played a lot of Scrabble, you'd be pretty good at it now, but clearly not.
What, because they let you win every now and again?
Oh.
1999, the biggest selling toy of that year was the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire board game.
He's terrible at Scrabble, Jeremy. Play him.
Well, I'm not that great either. I've only just started playing with yourself.
I was talking about you.
Oh, really?
To be fair, I'm fairly good. So.
Well, to be fair, I'm usually at work, and I keep getting this pop up.
Oh, it's your go. I'm driving. I'll still beat you. I'll do it when I'm quickly at the traffic lights. I'm like, okay, there you go. 34 points. Right? You've got.
I've not played Scrabble before. 15. And seeing TL or TD or whatever it was on the little squares, I didn't even know what that was. That was triple points or
triple letter and triple word.
I didn't know that. So I didn't know that what they were. I didn't know. I haven't played Scrabble before. But
How have you got to your age and not played Scrabble?
Yeah, I mean that's like playing chess. It's a coming of age thing. You
I
just
play
play
chess.
it. You
I
just
play chess. Anyway, let's get off the subject of my bad Scrabble playing.
Well, it's board games and part of what we're talking
If you
about.
can't handle the heat, don't enter the kitchen, mate. All right.
Yeah.
Something else that was
Christmas.
something else was
Trivial-
I was going to say something else was really big, wasn't it? It was Trivial Pursuit and getting a new Monopoly board or
Yep.
Risk.
I've never played Risk, but Trivial Pursuit was. We had cheese and crackers and Trivial Pursuit at Christmas.
Why have you never played Risk, Jeremy? Is it because you've never had the opportunity, or just not interested? Yeah.
It's the same reason
I don't
I
know
haven't played
anything
Scrabble.
about it.
Right,
it's just
'cause
not a board game we had.
I'd never played it up until I think probably about 2 years ago, around Charlie's house. He plays a lot of Risk and board games, and I bought him Star Wars Risk for Christmas a couple of years ago. Actually, yeah, I bought it for Christmas. I bought it for him, and one night he invited me round to play it, and we actually didn't end up playing that one. We ended up playing Risk 2250 or whatever is the future one. Really good game. Really enjoyed it. It was one of those. It took a few hours, but as soon as it finished, I wanted to start again. Well worth a play, mate. I've heard the Star Wars one can be got through really quick. It's a lot quicker than a general game of Risk.
So we used to have a game called Cold It.
Yeah,
I
Escape
remember
from
that too.
Colditz.
Yeah, Escape from Colditz, yeah.
I've got a copy of that still.
All kind of board games, we even just Snakes and Ladders.
The two that I played a lot was The Adventures of R2-D2 board game, which I actually got in my collection here, and also The Escape from the Death Star. I loved those two Star Wars games. Do you remember playing with like those spinning? It was like a
Battling Top.
It was like a Battling Top.
Yeah,
It was like an orange sort of bat. Yeah, it was like an orange.
You wrapped the string around them, you pulled them out, and they bounced off each other.
And just had fight. Well, back in
Battling Tops.
in I think it was 2005. I think it was. They were re-released called Beyblades. Do you remember 2003? Do you remember those coming out?
Beyblades, yeah.
Yeah, I remember those being quite a big thing, and lots of kids having those. And I was like, "You've had that before." I mean, things just keep coming around and round again.
I'm going to have to go and have a look through because some of it, I think I've got loads of this up in the loft.
Robo Sapien, robots, things like that. You just sort of thought, we've kind of had a little bit of those. But the other thing, mate, that in 2005 that you probably didn't get for Christmas, did you get a PS? Was it a PSP? Did you get a PSP for Christmas?
Not for Christmas. Was it for Christmas? Stace bought me one. Might not have been 2005.
2005 was the PSP launch.
I think she might have bought me out in 2006, 2007. She did buy me a PSP for Christmas one, yeah. I kind of, to be honest with you, as soon as I got it, I jailbroke it, put homebrew on it, and I was playing everything under the sun that I could do. A lot of retro gaming on there, because that's all they're really good for. A lot of the games, when you jump from PS2 and you're trying to play PS2, PS3 games, you're playing them and then you jump to something that hasn't even got dual analog. It's really hard, and a lot of the shooters were janky, the controls didn't work, and it was really good for retro gaming because you had your D-pad and your buttons, and that's all you needed for it. So if you can get a PSP, and I'm not condoning these actions because it's illegal and bad, if you can get one, get yourself a Pandora battery and break the firmware and install homebrew on it, they are great for all of that because you can just have thousands of NES games in your pocket.
Wow.
Yeah.
2006, the Nintendo Wii. Did you get one that year from Stacey?
No, but we had a Wii, so I don't know if it came that year.
It wasn't a games console that grabbed my attention, but I know something in 2007 that Jeremy would have got for Christmas. It was his Eagle Piggle from In the Night Garden. I bet he had one of those, and you probably lost a little red blanket, didn't you? I'm sure you did, somewhere in the bed somewhere.
I kept that very special.
2008.
We did have an Eagle Piggle, but that's because I had small children.
2008, you did not get a High School Musical dance mat, did you? No, because you've already told us you stopped dancing way back.
I love those films.
They were wonderful, weren't they?
I've never seen
We're
them.
all in this together.
2009, Go-Go Pet Hamsters. Do you remember them?
I'll tell you one thing, Adam. Little fact about High School Musical. First film, it's not actually him singing.
Is it not?
No.
Someone dubbed this. He was miming to that.
It's only the seat warmers.
Okay. Out of all of those toys that we mentioned as the must-have toys, 2010, a totally different thing was the must-have.
Yeah, let me guess.
For
It was
Christmas.
electronic, and it was something to do with bloody technology. No.
Toy Story 3 on DVD.
Really?
That was the biggest selling toy of that year. Was toys. Well, there you go. Isn't that amazing? It was just 2010. I think it was a huge price cut in the run up to Christmas, dropping the price of the film. It became like the must-have thing, and everybody went out and bought it. 2011 was a Leapfrog LeapPad Explorer tablet. I know my daughter had one of those. Skylander Giants. Now, I think, is it your mum? Does she play that?
No, Lego Dimensions.
Lego Dimensions. So that was in 2012. That was
not my mum. She's
big
been
hit
dead
there.
For years.
That'd
be weird.
2013, there was another Furby boom, or was certainly the Furby boom. And in 2014,
yeah, that was just a lot of people were typing in furry and getting it wrong on the internet and having to commit at that point.
2014, the world went a little bit frozen crazy, didn't it? And that was
just let
anything.
it go.
Yeah, still let it go.
Okay, 2015, something back into our kind of neck of the woods from The Force Awakens from 2015 was the Kylo Ren Deluxe electronic lightsaber at $34.99.
Clearly, the only thing they did sell was a Star Wars toy over the last few years.
Do you know what? That was probably the only thing from Force Awakens worth getting, wasn't it?
No, I mean, Alana got a range speeder and some of the Funko.
Yeah, because my Millennium Falcon is my Lego Millennium Falcon is the Lego.
I'm not talking Lego.
All right, okay.
I'm talking other toys. There wasn't a great deal, was there? Wasn't
toys have gone downhill, mate. This is what we're talking about. Even if you look at this list, you've said it yourself. You start to see a pattern emerging. We've had Furbies and Beyblades turn up, which are things that have come out in the past and they're reimagined for now. But then we're going to start dwindling off here. I mean, you say 1 year it was a DVD. That's depressing that we go from the start of this list. We're talking, games, Pogs and Rubik's Cubes and bikes and toys and figures. And then we're getting into Leapfrog tablets and DVDs. And it starts to get depressing that every year it just starts to become, like you say, I mean, I know so many kids that I was sitting there today, we went to see Father Christmas with my daughter today, and the amount of kids, I mean, I like one of them, it melted my heart. This little boy must have been 5 or 6 years old, and Father Christmas said, "What do you want?" And he said, "All the Roald Dahl books." Roald Dahl books.
Did he? Oh,
and my heart melted. I thought that is amazing. I'm so glad I've heard a kid say something like that. And my daughter, bless her, said LOL Biggie Pet, typical thing. Father Christmas raised his eyebrow and went, "Yeah, we've heard a lot of that lately." But then there was, one kid, and there must have been 4 or 5 kids were Xbox, Switch, and it's just like, oh, come on, what's wrong at your age of having a bloody action figure and a board game? It's depressing, man.
That was a lovely thing to hear, wasn't it?
That the Roald Dahl
somebody
books, yeah,
really fantastic.
Yeah.
So
last year,
yeah.
Sorry, last year I asked Alana what she wanted for Christmas, and she'd been watching the news early that day, and she said, "What I'd really like is for Father Christmas to take my toys to all the poor children in Syria." And I said to her, "Well, I could arrange that." And she said, "Could you?" I was like, "No, of course I'm not going to." Freddie piped up, "Well, I want all my toys. I'm not going to anyone."
Good lad.
She's like, "No, I'm not having that." But Freddie's actually after figures this year, but he's after the more high-end sculpt NECA and all that. He's really into them at the moment, but I don't think he wants them to play with.
No, but that's cool. I mean, that's what kids should want. That's what kids should
look at.
Christmas. Yeah, kids to look at and play with. Not a blooming tablet and a phone and a console. I mean, okay, console. It's kind of six one, half dozen the other that, because I had them as a kid growing up, and like I say, one of the greatest Christmas memories I have is getting my Mega Drive. So I wouldn't want to take that away from anyone, but it just seems to be not so technology driven now that you don't see kids sitting there asking for toys. It's always technology. You see
I
it with
think
tablets all the time. It's just depressing.
when we were younger, you'd go out during the day. When it got dark, you'd come home and then you turn your
Mm,
for me it was a
yeah.
VIC-20 or a Commodore 64. You turn that on when it got too dark to play outside.
No, to be fair, you turned your Commodore 64 on before you went out to play, and by the
Started
time you
loading
got
it
home,
on.
it was ready
It
loaded.
loaded up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure next week we're going to be going more into Christmas, and certainly we're going to be discussing our favourite Christmas films to watch over the Christmas period, and our favourite Christmas films we've watched of all time. And I reckon there's going to be a lot of similarities there, because they're all very endearing films. Apart from Rare Exports, which is the one film that I would recommend watching at Christmas, which is
Now
not so
you
endearing.
say this. No, you say this. I typed in. I was doing a little bit of research, and I was looking at lists of the top Christmas movies. Rare Exports does appear quite a few times on those lists.
Fantastic.
I've seen it as well. Yeah, I've seen it come up.
Yeah. So I
Well,
might have to have a look into this.
please do. I absolutely love it. And I think
Like the comic Rare
if you're a
Exports.
fan of The Thing and you like it, Bubba Hotep, you're going to love this film. It is right up your street, mate. It's really good. It does contain subtitles, but to be honest, if you weren't reading them, you'd know exactly what's going on. You would. It's easy stuff. But I'm really looking forward to next week's show, which will drop on Christmas Day. We are the sharing is caring, and
Won't
the
have any
gift that keeps
time.
on giving.
Yeah.
After a
Indeed.
year in planning that, it's been a year in planning. Andy has worked really hard to get that to fall on Christmas Day.
I have.
So
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah. If it was falling on the Wednesday, I'd just shift it forward to Tuesday. It's a lot of planning that goes in there,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is lucky that it has fallen on that day for our release schedule. Yeah.
So we wish everyone a very pleasant week, and let's hope that you don't get all too stressed out at your work, so that you can have a nice, relaxing time over the Christmas period. I am indeed. Otherwise, we'll be recording again next Sunday. Thanks ever so much for joining in on the Facebook group and
That's a very good point,
interacting
actually.
on our Instagram and Twitter.
Sunday. That's what we should let people know. We record on a Sunday, because then if they want questions in for that week, get them in for Sunday afternoon latest.
Very well said, Andy. I think that's a very good point. So, guys, thanks very much for joining us all together and having a good old rant and a banter on
Rant and banter.
rant and a banter.
That's it. The Essex came out in him then, didn't it?
It did indeed.
Gonna have a cheeky Nando's next.
Yeah, for cheeky Nando's with the boys, isn't he?
Yeah.
Don't ever do that again. That was really uncomfortable.
So I'll be going out down Raquel's in Romford next weekend with the lads.
No, shut up.
Yeah, oh yeah, in my 40K, isn't it?
No. You going with Gal? Oh yeah. Gal and Del.
Going with Gary and Sharon. So guys, yeah. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye to all our listeners from Essex.
one of the lads that works, because we do rounds, and he drives over in Essex daily, and we have to wash the vans, right? So I was washing his van for him the other week, and all these bug splatters on his van, they were really I said to him, I said, why is it my van when I wash it, all the bug splatters come off, but yours stick on? I said, is it because they're from Essex and they're wearing too much fake tan, and it's just stained your van? And it's the only thing we can come up with, either that or the toxic skyline, one of the two.
It's probably a little bit of both. Thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. We look forward to interacting with you on our Instagram, our Twitter, and of course our Facebook groups. Till next time, Andy.
Good seeing you.
Jeremy.
See you later.
Cue the music.